You're listening to the Valley Current.
The Me Too movement has moved the goalposts in a way that says, look, no is no. Maybe we have to get to an enthusiastic yes, which really does change everything.
It's funny you say that, Jack. The defense attorney, part of her opening statement, she talked a lot about, you're going to hear a lot, I know everybody hears about the Me Too and this and that. She was kind of trying to draw the analogies that be careful, everybody still needs their due process, blah, blah, blah. And I got the sense that she felt like, in the kind of world feels like, this Me Too thing has taken on a lot of traction.
Yeah, well, and it might have backfired. Like when you're a defense attorney and you play cards, however she played her cards, better than I do. It sounds like you felt like she made some decisions that probably she now regrets, particularly in allowing certain people to testify that really got ripped on cross-examination. Those were choices. Those were strategic choices.
Yeah.
And she looks back. Now, I can tell you that most private criminal defense attorneys in high-profile cases will do one or more mock trials where they actually assemble a group of people and then they simulate. Now, not over 3 weeks, because that's way too expensive, but like over 3 hours. Here's the testimony from the victim. Here's the testimony from the crime lab. Here's the testimony from the defendant. And then they let the jurors deliberate and they videotape the deliberations just to see, an older person is going to throw the book at this guy, or a younger person's going to throw the book, or a younger female is going to throw the book. Like you are probably the perfect juror, sort of like right in the middle, middle-aged man. But you have daughters, so maybe that's a boogie to some degree. Like to some degree, is that something that plays a role? I don't know. Jury selection is always a iffy game. Yeah, and you never get a perfect jury. Yeah. The jury can be a group of people that, are leaning one way or leaning another way, and they're going to latch onto something versus latch onto something else. And you had two people. Can you generically describe them? Was it two women, two men that were sort of hanging?
It's actually a man and a woman, and they were both pretty well educated. She, I think, if I remember right, she had a psychology degree or something. He was a financial planner. He'd been, so not pretty well educated people. They finally kind of came around. They all along, they were like, I'm sign off on 95% of this stuff. Some of this wording kind of concerns me and we need to talk about it more. And one of those types of things.
Well, was there any sort of, look, he's such a young kid, this is going to ruin his life forever, it's going to be over for him, that sort of...
Some of that, but I think the counter to that is that, try to keep the personal views out because, and I could see it was a very interesting process because the instructions that the judge gave us, no sympathy, just weigh the evidence, just keep going back to the evidence and don't try to get hung up. And you could see some of the jurors kind of, giving their personal opinions and stuff. And so we had to kind of stop them in a gentle way and say, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with you. Let's get back to the evidence type of thing. But
the other part that hurt him, as it turned out, is he had a number of interactions with other women.
Yeah.
The same pattern of getting them into his car kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he kind of had an approach that sounds like there was a lot of corroboration.
Almost kind of predatory type,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in general, would you say he was from a well-to-do family? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say extremely wealthy, but maybe above middle class, but pretty well-to-do.
Did the mother and dad show up for trial?
They were there the whole time. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. She didn't ask me questions about this, but I did. When the defense attorney was asking me questions, I was going to ask her about why they took the approach. So her approach, for some reason, I don't know what it was, she took the approach that this poor guy had no sex education. His parents never talked to him about sex. And I was thinking to myself, even the jury and I were talking about, like, I'm not sure why she took, almost like this poor guy didn't know anything. Maybe that's the angle she was trying to take. But to me, when you listen to the wording and the phrases he used in his sexual manner, this wasn't a guy that was naive. He was either watching pornography or doing something, because he did not have this insecure. I was wondering, all of us are wondering why she said that several times. This guy had no sexual training, no sexual education. His parents never talked to him about sex. I'm not sure why that angle was taken.
Well, they try to play it out like there was no willful intent or no malicious intent. Like this was someone who just didn't know where the line was. And it was like, he went over the line. Like you could almost argue, if they wanted to bring in, and people are now starting to say, the porn industry has had a real impact in a lot of different ways.
Yes, it has.
This area. And say, look, the porn industry celebrates this idea that women can be teases.
Right.
And the teasing can be no, but they really mean yes, yes, yes. And they play up this whole notion as part of the acting that, hey, you're going to see exactly that the line is very blurry, and that somehow, no one was there in the car with the two of them. There was no tape recorder. There was no videotape.
No.
It was pretty much like he said, she said.
Right, exactly.
She might have some bruises and some other things. And then you get into, well, what do you do in a case like that where it's literally a judgment call as to whether she was clear enough and resisted enough, right? Like ultimately, usually there's some lacerations or some other things. Now, I can tell you, I've heard, I'm not a criminal defense lawyer, as you know, but I've heard of many cases where roommates and people that were sort of cohabitating, one of them takes advantage of the other to set up a civil lawsuit and to maybe set up a settlement, like a situation where, he struck me, and it's all made up. It's all just designed to set up a lawsuit that's going to pursue six figures. And that does happen, particularly when, two people are just living together.
Yeah.
There's maybe the guy owns the house, the girl doesn't. The girl doesn't have a lease. There's no cohabitation agreement. And the guy wakes up one day and says, I want you to leave. And the girl's like, what? I've been here for 3 or 4 years. I can't just leave. And the guy's like, you got to, it's my house. And she's like, no. And then they get into a quarrel. One thing leads to another. Maybe there's some pushing, whatever. And all of a sudden she's got to call out to the police, and the police may even arrest him. And you can flip it around the other way too, where it's, the woman owns a house and the guy doesn't want to leave, and something happens, right? There's stories like that. And of course, when you're dealing with teens that are in high school, I guess they were both seniors at the same school, right?
Yeah. Is it true that I think I either read somewhere, this was hard to believe. Is it true that only about 1% of all cases that are filed actually goes to a jury trial?
1% of the civil cases. I think in the criminal cases, it's higher.
It's higher. Okay.
Yeah. I think the criminal cases, there's too much. There's too much jostling that goes on between the litigants about what's a fair deal. It's not like trying to calculate a damages number where people come within a certain range of each other and then reach a compromise.
Right.
What's going on? So there's a rise in rape cases prompts San Jose female council members to mobilize a response. 220 incidents in 2008 to 615 in 2018. My guess is it's probably even higher 4 years later, because I think that there's greater consciousness that it should be reported. So the numbers are going up, which means that the number of cases that end up getting litigated go up, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the number of trials go up, right? So in general, this whole Me Too movement has created far more reporting, which is resulting in far more cases, which is resulting in either far more pleas or far more trials, far more appeals. So you could think of it as, is California in a bit of a criminal crisis, particularly in San Francisco, where there seems to be a lot of outlawish behavior? I mean, you're sitting there in this rape case, but it's not a rape case involving strangers. It's not like, hey, I was on the train, someone grabbed me, I had no idea who it was. These are like people that were friends or friendly to each other, right? It's a different kind of case than the random on the street, you're riding your bike, you get knocked off the bike kind of thing, and you're getting mugged and raped and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's a vicious type of crime and clearly deserves punishment. And it probably happens every day of the week in San Francisco in one way or the other. The muggings certainly do, right?
Yeah, but which doesn't surprise me now. It's sad, but I don't know. It's upwards of 70+% of all these rapes are actually molestations, and this violation stuff happens with someone that you know.
Right, because that's how someone even gets close enough, right? If you look at most people, including men, they're carrying mace, they're carrying, I'm not going to say they're carrying concealed weapons, but some people are carrying knives. Of course, the concealed carry law is pretty tough in California, but it's a lot less tough in other states.
Right.
And so there are a lot of people with concealed carry, and, they'll pull a gun and blow someone away if they get too close. And this is another area where there's 50 different state laws on whether you can hold your ground or not hold your ground. Yeah. And, it's an amazing story about how people operate in a world where there's a lot more reporting on the news of, well, someone got beat up, someone got robbed, someone got mugged, carjackings that happen. I mean, you read this stuff every day of the week and you say, what is happening in this world? Here's the tie to this question of, is it just dense, poverty-stricken areas, like you could argue San Francisco has become to some degree? Downtown San Jose still is, although there's kind of a makeover in process in downtown San Jose that I think is probably going to make it a far safer place than, say, parts of San Francisco are. Or is it really every big city? New York, Detroit, you name it, every big city has pockets, crime-ridden places. So to recap, Joe, you now have become a professional juror. It's motivated you to think about maybe going back to law school.
I found it very interesting. I'll tell you, I would go sit on just out of interest in some cases, depending on the case. I would probably go sit in and kind of listen in a little bit. But I've been telling everybody. I think that I think everybody should do that at one point in their life.
But you had 3 weeks of your life taken away from you, probably without a hiccup to your business, because you're able to catch up with things on lunch breaks and the like.
Right.
But 3 weeks, most people that I talk to that become jurors for that length of time will say that case should have been tried in 3 days. Yeah. What we heard, it was so redundant. It was so tangential. There was so much like skirmishing over stupid stuff. The essential story is, it happened in a 15-minute, half-hour period, 2-hour period, whatever it was. It wasn't something that justified a congressional hearing. Right. And yet the due process allows these trials to go on and on and on and on. And the written record in that case, if it's 3 weeks, that's 15 trial days. My bet is it's probably a couple of thousand pages of transcript.
Oh, it was a lot.
And you got a court reporter that's taking it all down. So that person's got to be paid. And it's a big, I'm sure there's going to be some issues on appeal, particularly on this stuff dealing with other incidents. That's a big hot button. I'm sure that's going to be something. What was the name of the judge that had the actual case? Had she been a judge for a while?
I think she has. I'll think of it.
Well, let's just see really fast if I can find it. It's
a fairly short name, last name. A very obvious Indian first name, a short name, but she was very good. I thought she did a good job, but I could tell she got pretty frustrated several times with all the sidebars.
Yeah. What was this guy's name? Ryan. What was his first name?
Mason Ryan. Last name Ryan. First name Mason.
Mason.
Yeah.
And last name Ryan, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just see if something comes up here. I just have People versus Mason Ryan, complaint felony, filing date. I'll show you what you can get access to. You probably don't know this, but you probably should, because if you really want to see the whole case as it got laid out in the court system, there's a public portal that's called the portal.scscourt.org.
Oh, look at that.
Here it is right here. Here's the case, right?
So that'll show the judge's name too then, huh?
Right. So there was a traffic case with this guy from June of 2020. There was another case, another adult traffic case that's still open with, I assume, the same guy. So he's running some problems in traffic court. So this is a case. Let's see. We'll do hearings. You were probably in department 47.
Yeah.
Right? So this shows jury trial that you had on all of these days that are listed starting, looks like February. Can that be right?
Yeah.
February 2nd. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. So
it might have been a month, huh? I might have been a month.
So
sentencing. So they're not going to, does that mean they're not going to sentence until May? Is that what that shows?
May 23rd. Okay. So there's a total of 38 entries in this file, right? So here's the arraignment and the complaint. Let's see if I could find the actual pleading so you could see what exactly he's charged with. So you could think of it as there's case info, case number. It started in November 4, 2020. Here are the attorneys. Hold on a second.
Yeah, Hessling was a defense attorney.
Yeah, last name Hessling.
Yeah. Let's see. The defense, the DA was, what was her last name? She was also of an Indian, what was her last name?
Renee Hessling was the attorney that called you on the phone, it sounds like, right?
Yes.
It's not showing the name of the prosecutor, which is surprising.
Mancurious, that's the last name of the prosecuting attorney, Mancurious.
And she was Indian as well?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So usually...
They both were fairly young. I would say in their maybe late 30s or, maybe early 40s.
Yeah, usually there would be a button, although I'm not finding it, which is surprising.
So that's interesting. The judge's name's not on there, huh?
Yeah, the judge's name would be on there, and usually there would also be a list of all the filings, like an actual access to the filings themselves, like the actual charge, the actual arraignment, the actual complaint. I mean, that's what you see. A case, soup to nuts, May of 2022, started in November. So you could see maybe the effect of the arraignment complaint was actually January of 2021. So literally in the pandemic. I thought I saw something that the case started in November, but this says the arraignment and complaint is January. So maybe something got filed in November to start the actual file. Do you know the date that the actual rape happened, or the actual? Yeah,
the rape was on, I believe, if I remember right, it was February 20th, 2000, because I remember it was almost 2 years exact.
2020.
Yeah, 2020, yeah.
2020. So it took them 9 months to get to the criminal charges. And then all of 2021, here's everything that happened in 2021. went to the master trial calendar and so on. And then you got to trial sort of a year later, which is not too bad as things go in criminal cases. That's probably viewed as fast.
Well, considering COVID too, I thought it was fairly quick.
Right.
What the heck was her name? It's driving me crazy now.
The judge's name?
Yeah. She actually, you couldn't tell, but when she would go to sidebar, I'm pretty sure she was pretty far along pregnant too. Even in her robe, you could kind of tell.
The judge was?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying she's probably in her 30s?
I would say the judge is probably in her 40s, but they all look pretty young, honestly. I think Hesseline looked like she'd been practicing for about 15 years. They're probably in their 40s. It's so hard to tell these days. It's funny how as we get older, everybody looks young.
Yeah, so it's probably Penantha Sabin.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Sabin.
Penantha Sabin is in Department 47.
That's her.
So that's a judge that you had.
Yeah.
And so you're saying you think she's probably in her 40s is what you're saying.
I would say that'd be my best guess. Yeah, she's in her 40s. I thought she did a good job. There was quite a bit of sidebars. I think more than she would have liked to see, but
well, there's probably a lot of issues. I mean, here's what the judge looks like. They used to show pictures, but now, of course, they take some care. She was a public defender, apparently, before she became a judge. So this is, maybe there's a picture here. Let's see. She was a public defender for some period of time.
But in Santa Clara?
In Santa Clara, that's what this is saying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of a direction that people that excel take.
Is that usually the direction, public defender?
Head towards becoming a public defender, and then put in some time. And then once you put in that time, basically get appointed. And so there's all sorts of search tools out there that you can use to find out more about how a judge operates in a courtroom. And so something called robing room for California state judges that actually lets you search for what are people saying about a particular judge.
Oh, interesting.
And
really?
So you can actually get some intelligence about a judge. So here's an example. She doesn't have any ratings, though. So my guess is she's probably relatively recent to the bench.
She seemed to be pretty young for a judge, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the bar is for that these days, because, it's funny, as we get older, everybody young is in the workforce all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that's as we get older, we start realizing that we're getting older. Like it takes a while for it to dawn on you that, you know what, you're getting older.
Yeah.
As you get older, these people seem really young, right? Yeah. It's like, well, I'll finish with, you can always go to calbar.gov just to tell you that that's another way to get access. And then calbar.gov gives you a way to search for the bar data about it.
Interesting.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of tools available online. So Sabin, Saban, I'll just show you the bar records for her, assuming that they're here. They should be.
So will it show like how many court cases she's had and all that already?
It shows her bar number and when she passed the bar. So she passed the bar in, I'll just show you the data. So you go to calbar.gov and I just put in her last name. It turns out there are 3 Sabins and she's Penthea right there.
Yeah, that's her.
June 1999, which means she's got about 22 years of experience. And she was a public defender for a lot of that period of time, and became a judge, I think, within the last 5 years or so. So she was a criminal defense lawyer, which is usually good for the defendant because, they understand, they typically understand things more from the defense point of view. But it doesn't sound like it played out that way in this particular case, right?
No, I just think, again, I have no experience in this, but the most of us reached a consensus of the jury members that she had a couple of people that just really kind of blew the case for him. The couple of witnesses just had zero credibility. They said so many things that didn't make sense and contradicted a couple other people, and it was not good.
Yeah, she was appointed by Governor Brown on October 11, 2018. So she's got about 3 or 3.5 years on the bench.
Okay.
So that's her term will end in January of 2027. She won re-election, is what this is saying. Oh, here's a picture. Okay, hold on. So let's put that up just for you to verify that we have the data correctly. Yeah, so look how much information you can get just online once you know what to look for, right?
Oh, that is amazing.
That's her, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, she's actually the attractive young lady. Yeah.
Yeah, and young looking. Yeah. So
yeah.
This is her picture right here.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So where'd she go? Law school, Sonoma State.
California Western School of Law, which is, I think, down in Irvine or down in Orange County.
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah.
So she worked for 18 years for the deputy public defender, as a deputy public defender. And she was a staff attorney for the Appellate Defenders, Inc., which is kind of a appellate version of public defender, presumably right out of law school. And then, mostly just criminal work throughout Sonoma State and JD from California Western School of Law. So that's, not exactly a top 10 law school, but hey, she passed the bar. So that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought she did. Yeah. She did a good job explaining everything. And I thought she did a good job running the court. Yeah. I mean, it seemed like she did anyway. But it was kind of funny. You watch people's facial expressions, and it's kind of tough, I'll tell you, with the masks on. But
the masks are on even when they're testifying.
No. So the witness, the mask came off, but everybody else had the masks on. Okay. So, but I was always kind of scanning the room and watching the defense attorney and prosecuting attorney, and there was only one time I remember the judge kind of making kind of a weird facial expression. It was one of the expert witnesses, actually. It was almost, and I had the same thought. There was some stuff that he was saying that just was kind of didn't make any sense, or was off, kind of going in a different direction. But other than that, I think, yeah, she seemed to do a pretty good job.
Well, Joe, you're a civic hero. Done the right thing. You've stayed alive to tell about it.
Yeah.
And I owe you lunch, and we'll celebrate. Maybe we'll get together later in the month. I'll send you a text message and make a suggestion.
Yeah, let me know when you come out.
All right. Talk to you later. Take care. Thanks, Joe. See you later.
Bye, Jack.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.